All right, so apologize for the technical difficulties today. We're going to go ahead and do this recording, and we're just going to live with having it be this way. All right, so this week we're going to cover personas and scenarios in preparation for your next project, which was your first group project. And then we'll at least talk about brainstorming. Normally I have a brainstorming activity, but for those that were in the second section or didn't make it to class, we're not going to be able to do that at this point. So you'll have to bear with me. We'll talk about it at least. All right. So no real announcements today as of pre today. I didn't get a chance to write the couple in that did show up. So reminder that John Goodale will be there tomorrow for his talk presentation. So if you can make it, that's great. John's an amazing guy. He has been in industry for decades, and so will be a great person for you to keep contact with and connect with. The other thing is that shortly you'll be able to register for summer classes. This is the first year, I believe, ever that GIMM has offered any summer classes. We're offering 3 special topics, 300 level classes, although there are, at least my 2 don't have prerequisites. I don't remember if Professor Doty's does or not. So it would be available for anyone to take either of mine, and they are 300 levels, so they would allow you to make up for or use them in place of 1 or 2 of the 300 level ITM classes. So please sign up for those if you're interested. Please sign up in those as soon as possible, and they will. Yeah, we need to make sure. I believe we have 17 enrolled for each one for them to go. So the sooner we know where those are at, the better. All right, so today we're going to talk about personas. And so what is a persona? A persona can mean lots of different things, but we're going to specifically look at it in the context of user experience, especially UX testing. And so a persona is a fictional personality profile. You're developing that persona to help your team, or I guess it could just be yourself. Usually you want a team, though, identify and understand your target audience. So this is all about getting feedback from what would technically be your target audience. So that's where the persona and the personality profile really comes into play. It's not a real person, but it's based off of that general idea of what you've got as a target audience. And it's usually filled with really rich, full descriptions of your typical user, right? So you start to learn your target audience. You've got a plan for your target users, right? I'm expecting them to be female from ages 12 to 18, right? Whatever that is. I'm stay-at-home dads aged 27 to 42, right? You should start to know what that is. And you're going to then use these rich descriptions to help in that development of a product. This could be a digital product, this could be a physical product, whatever it is. You have a plan that this is going to be a good, positive solution for that user group for doing some tasks that they'd be interested in. And so you use the personas as a stand-in if you don't have availability to actually bring in someone or multiple people in that target audience user group. And so without a persona, right, or participants in a study, but we're going to talk about personas. Um, when it comes to the designer or the developer, you're really creating it in a vacuum, so you're creating it for yourself, right? We might think that we're creating it for someone else. I really want this to be uh, the best application for um, philanthropists that are age 65 and over to give money, right? But just because that's the plan and the group, if you're, well, even if you are in that age range, right, you're never going to be the best person to just to find bugs to develop something for someone else with, right? We want to know what it is that other real people want and need, and so if you're doing this without a persona, you're really just going to be creating that product for yourself. Yes, other people might like it, but when it comes down to it, even if you don't mean it to be that way, you're creating it for yourself. And so what this really does is the persona helps ground that communication, right? It gives a point of reference, a point of view of who that target user is. And then from that point of view, it's so much easier to see things that you might easily have missed. And so this can be just you with a point of reference. It can be your entire team. It can be a portion of your team. But you want to ground that communication on that viewpoint of your user um, to really get the best information out of it. And so when we're creating a persona, it's not just like D&D where you roll some stats, choose your race, your class, and starting equipment. Um, there's more of a very specific part of this, or rule set to how you're doing it. And so you're going to be basing the persona off of some market research, right? Um, Usually you can find market research that's already been done, right? I'm interested in a video game for girls 12 to 18. There's going to be some market research out there, right? I can find out what girls in that age range typically like, dislike, enjoy, find frustrating in that. And so I've got that information that's factual to help me create a fictional persona that falls into that range. You can also find some quantitative studies, right? This could be something where there's a whole bunch of like 27% of men over 45 donate $200 on average a year, right? That information can be out there. All of this, there are sometimes it's easier to find than others, but you can find this, or you could just do a quick. It's easier to conduct this type of research than to sometimes bring in uh, your target audience, because this is something. A lot of these you could kind of send out in a survey type thing that would make that a little easier. You can also do observational studies, right? You can observe how people are doing things. This could be bringing someone in and actually observing them interact. This could be finding some videos of uh, streamers playing a video game that genre that you're interested in, or that's meant for that age range, and kind of get feedback as you're observing them play. You can do a literature review. There's tons and tons of research out there. Uh, scholar.google.com, like pretty much you think of it, you're going to find a scholarly paper and multiple papers out there that are talking about it. And you can take that and bring in lots of different pieces of those scholarly papers to be your literature that you can now make generalizations with, um, and start to piece all these pieces together. You can do video analysis, right? This could be YouTube videos, this could be TikTok, this could be lots of different things as you analyze the video for information that ties directly to who your user is. And for your target users, right? What you're going to do is you're going to interpret the data, right? You're going to get this huge data set to a degree. It can be a lot, and so you need to interpret the data. You can't just be like, here's the data. It's great. I'm good to go. You need to interpret it in some way, right? And so through that, you're going to be listening to what the users are saying. Yeah, I absolutely love this style of game. It's my favorite genre, or this is cool, or I didn't really like it. And so you're going to start with listening to what they're saying about it, right? You're interpreting the data, you're listening to what they say, but the end goal is really going beyond to what they mean, right? It's really easy to just be like, oh, yeah, like 4 people said they didn't like it. Or 4 people said they didn't like the controller, right? The control of it. So is it that they didn't like that it was requiring an Xbox controller rather than like keyboard mouse? Is it that the Xbox controller that it requires to play didn't have any ability to be remapped, right? What is the real true meaning behind what it is that they're saying? And that's going to really help you gain that understanding of the needs, the person that you're trying to capture in this. And so once we've kind of done all this stuff, we're going to step by step, right? We're going to conduct that background research that we just did. We did a lit review. We found some videos. Cool. Now I've gotten that information. I've distilled it. I've interpreted it. I've really gotten to the core meanings of it all. And so you're going to take that, you're going to aggregate those findings, you're going to bring them all together. These are my main findings about this age group, about this demographic. This is who they are, this is what they're into, this is what they find frustrating, all those different pieces, right? You're going to bring all those findings together, and you're going to do like we did in the design exercise, design thinking exercise, and you're going to distill all these findings into the needs, right? So when we were doing the design thinking, you asked questions, you ran your interviews, and then at a certain point, through the worksheets, I quote unquote forced you to make a stand, right? What is the need? My partner needs this for whatever reason, right? What are those specific needs of your target demographic or your user base when it comes to your product, right? And so with those, then you're going to take all that and you're going to then either find or create your own persona template, which we'll go over the templates here in a bit. And I'll explain why I like some over others. As you're going to put all this onto a template, right? You want this all to be accessible because you're going to end up handing the persona to someone to say, hey, I need you to step into this role. I need you to pretend to be this persona. Here is who they are. Here's all their information. And so you put that all on the template. You put all the information in there, and then cap it all off by writing a little narrative. This can be a day in the life. This can be a short bio. Think about like a paragraph or two that really gives and flushes out that character, right? This is who that persona is. These are the things that they go through in a day. These are the things that they're interested in. This is the stuff that is super important to them. And by giving that, you're really breathing life to this persona. It's easier to see them almost as a real person than just something that you've made up based off of real world information. And so, looking a little bit deeper at these, right? Making it clear this is not a real person. A persona is not a real person. It is that synthesized information that you've gathered through your research about real user characteristics. It's not about one specific user characteristics. It's about a population of characteristics, right? And so you're bringing this all together to create the persona, but it's not based off of one real person. And so to that, it shouldn't be idealized. It shouldn't just be only stereotypes, right? Like, oh, stereotypical, you know, male teen. They sleep all day. They never clean their room. They like pizza, right? We can create these stereotypes, and we all know the stereotypes, but we can't just build a persona on stereotypes, because we're more than just stereotypes. The average person, you can put them in that stereotype box, but we don't all fit in there, right? There's always parts of us that are outside of that box. And so it shouldn't be idealized. It should feel like a real person. It shouldn't just feel like a pile of stereotypes. And you really want to bring them to life. The goal of this, the 100% goal of this, is bringing them to life. How do you make them feel real? Yes, this is not a real person, but man, they should really feel like a real person. And so we can do things like giving them a name, right? Rather than like persona number 4, let's call him Steve Jones instead, right? Steve Jones, I can kind of like, I probably have known someone named Steve Jones before, or at least it feels like that's a real person, versus persona number 4. In addition, we can use a photo, right? We can assign an actual picture image to put in someone's head of who this persona is. And the real important part of adding this picture to it is there's a thing called the Proteus effect. And the Proteus effect actually is a real scientifically tested effect that um, avatars and personas and pictures, if we are told to imagine ourselves as someone we're not, and we provide a photo, we can actually really put ourselves into that persona and uh, look at things through a different lens than we would just from our normal life. And so by doing that, it gives us that ability to really reach in and like see things from that persona's point of view. Once again, even though they're not a real person, we've created it in such a way that it's easy to imagine the person that persona is a real person. And so we can take on their characteristics and think about things from their point of view, their needs. We want to give them some characteristics, right? What's their age? Where are they? A high school graduate, a college graduate? Um, where do they live? What job do they have? Right? All of these different characteristics continue to make them feel more and more real. Uh, and you still want them to fall into that target user group. But we are able to just dig more uh, information and see, like, oh, cool, I'm an investment banker. Okay, this is my viewpoint. Even if you're not an investment banker, right? We all have an idea of what an investment banker is versus a retail salesperson, right? We can kind of see those things, and by doing that, we continue to bring them to life. We want to give them goals, right? What are the goals of my persona? Now, these should be, for the most part, goals that are related to the product. So this goal could be like, I want to play a video game to have fun, or it could be, I want to be able to donate money to people in need. Whatever it is, right? You can have maybe like a goal that's not tied directly to what you're doing, but you really want the majority of all your goals to be connected some way, shape, or form to your product or the thing that your product is trying to solve. And so those goals really, once again, allow you to embody this persona, and give them a background. Right. This is why we talk about the day in the life, or a bio. Who are they? What's their history? Once again, still tying it for the most part to how it would tie into the product that you're researching with this. But um, If in the background you mentioned about like they get up, they have breakfast with a cat, they take the bus to work, it's a different thing than they wake up in the morning, they feed their kids and drive to work, right? It's different. You're going to kind of have a different perspective from each of those. And so providing that background really, once again, helps build that persona and make them feel more and more real. And then you usually don't want to create one. Your user group, your range of your users is not usually going to be made for one person unless, once again, you are independently wealthy and you're making it for yourself. It's probably not going to make much sense to just create one. So you want to create a few. What that number is, there's no real true magic number. If you're trying to do a really in-depth thing and you've got a very diverse user base that you could be going for, target demographic, maybe you make like 10 to 20 of them. If it's something a little bit more niche or you have a smaller group, maybe 5 to 7. It also just depends upon what you're looking at. More general, have more specific, okay to have less. But you want to be able to do that because you want to represent the different people that would fall into your range of target users. And this is all uncovered through the research you've done, right? You would have found out, okay, I'm making this style of game. Tend to be these people that like it. Cool. This is going to be this gender or any gender, and it's going to be this age range type thing, right? You'll have all that, and so make sure that you have a good mix of personas for that. So when we're doing that, right, we then are going to make a sheet for it. You can do multiple personas on one sheet. I don't recommend it personally, and I'm not gonna and for your assignment, I'm not gonna, you have to do one per sheet. But for this, you're going to be specifically wanting to bring them all together, right? Here's the goals, right? The name, you've got a picture, a name, you've got goals. Frustrations are great. Frustrations allow you to understand more about a person, right? We talk more about our frustrations than the cool stuff that happens to us. Just read reviews for about anything. The negative reviews or frustrations way outweigh the good ones. The problem with putting 3 on a sheet is what happens there. It can be really easy to start blending them together, and then you have a persona that's a mixture of all 3. You really want them separate. So what you really want to do is put them on just a single sheet, right? You've got your person's name, you've got a photo, you've got information uh, about them. You can have little graphs that make it really easy to be like, hey, they really like technology, or they're really good with it, or they can't really use a mobile phone, but they're good with using the website, right? You can bring all these things in, once again, to make this persona feel more and more real and giving your person who's going to be taking on that persona's point of view the information they need to do so to really play that. This is more like the style that I've used and created in the past. So big, obvious, this is the person's name. I really love having the picture and a quote from the person, and that quote somehow usually ties to their thoughts, either frustrations or goals related to that product. Lots of personal information, right? We've got age and occupation, where they live. We've got bio, we've got goals. In this one, they put in the Myers-Briggs personality types, depending upon what you're doing. That could be kind of cool. And then with this one, that technology thing, right? Pretty good with IT and internet, not so good with social networks. And it's really easy to see that just from the bars. All right. I would ask if there's any questions. If there are, please send me emails. But so we have a persona, right? That's great, but we can't just use a persona. We need to use a scenario with our persona to really get anything out of it. And so, with that, a scenario, what is a scenario? A scenario is an informal narrative that explains how a user is going to use the product to achieve a goal, right? You're telling a story. Um, it can be, you want it grounded in reality, right? You don't want it to be like, oh, uh, Steve is off to fight dragons today, and he needs a good sword to do so, right? While that would be a fun scenario to run, that's a D&D campaign, not necessarily um, trying to figure out the product and services in the real world, right? So this could be something like Steve just watched a documentary on uh, poverty in rural Canada and is interested in being able to give money uh, anonymously to help support those in need, right? And so the product and or and I guess wants to use a mobile application to do that to achieve the goal, right? And so we can give that story, right? Here's the person. Here's why they're interested in it. Here's what they're trying to achieve, or here's a product and what they're trying to achieve with it, right? Um, Gives you that ability to then use that persona to explore this idea of using of the use of the project or the use of the product to achieve the goal. And so the story is going to have a setting, right? And the one, right, watching a documentary, right, or walking down the street, or deciding where to go to dinner, right? What's that setting? Where is this going to be used? Tie it to what you think that product's going to be. And where you're going to use it. Here's the setting. Um, the agent or actor is our persona in this situation. And so our persona has a goal and an objective, right? Uh, Steve uh, wants to give money to people in need in rural Canada, right? Um, so we have that full, now we've got our setting, and now we know who's going to be doing it and what they want to actually achieve. And then you can provide this through a plot, sequence of actions or events, right? How is that going to be dealt with? What is the series of events that are going to happen? And this gives the scenario, and then this is going to be what's used by the person playing the persona to give feedback on that. And so our components, right, like we constantly talked about, you need a persona, you need a detailed persona that has goals and frustrations and background information that ties to why they would be interested in using this product, right? Um, we need the context. How does the interaction start, right? They watch the documentary on poverty, right? That's how this is starting. And then our goals. What's the goal of the user from that, right? The goal of the user is to donate money to be able to help, right? Having these pieces creates that solid scenario that we can use our persona, take on their viewpoint, and give feedback based off of the product that's being presented to us. Or, hey, they think this product should have this, or it'd be really important for the main icon to access the menu to not be shaped like a birthday cake, because I don't know what that is, right? All those different aspects. So with this, right, we want to identify the people involved. This is our persona, as we've talked about a lot. We want the starting state. What's the context, right? Why is this important? What led to this product wanting to be or needing to be used? The list of goals, right? This might be one main goal or a few goals, right? As they're going to be using that product or service or app or whatever it is. And then if you have multiple goals, you want to prioritize them as you understand the needs of your user base, right? So in our situation that or scenario that constantly been building, right? Um, let's say the goals are to give money uh, anonymously in whatever amount you want to do, right? And so uh, if that's the priority, right? So we can just put that in there, right? Uh, Steve's goal after watching the documentary is to be able to easily donate money to those in need, but he wants to be able to stay anonymous throughout the process while also being able to choose his donation amount rather than be required to only donate in certain denominations or something like that, right? And so this gives us that information that we're going to use our persona for. And then you're going to craft a story. You have all this, you know the pieces, and you're going to craft the story like I've been doing, right? See, watch the documentary. He was touched by the struggles of those in rural Canada with poverty and struggling to meet their needs. And so now he's looking for a solution to be able to easily give money, dot, 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 right? We're giving that story. We can relate to stories so much better. So, what makes a good scenario, right? If you could say anything, but how do we make it a good scenario? We want it to be a bridge between the design and the problem, or design or problem. All right, sorry. We want it to be a bridge between the idea and or the problem and the solution, right? So here's this mobile application that we think would be easy to do donations through. Or there's a problem of donating easily. Here's a solution through a mobile device, right? We want to be able to see from the idea or the problem, how does the solution tie into it, right? Making it clear, making it obvious. We want the scenario to be able to advance the fidelity of the idea. So fidelity being like how visible, how easy is it, like how clear does it become, right? We want to be able to make that idea so much clearer as we go through. And so that's really important in that good scenario, making it so that it's just everything is crystal clear. It makes the idea come more and more obvious. And it should stand on its own without explanation. This is a huge one. This is probably actually one of the most important, right? What you want is that ability for the person that's playing the persona to be able to read and understand the scenario without having to get any information from the person that's running the study, right? Um, because the moment you have to explain, you're adding bias, right? Oh, I think this is the best option. I think, I know it's kind of vague on, this application, but, I think it's a really great application. It's going to do this, that, the other thing. And you just start building in bias. And so then the person that's playing the persona starts to kind of see what you want to hear, and often without conscious thought is going to give you that information. And so being able to provide them the scenario and let it stand on its own is going to give you so much better results. And you're not just like, here's every little detail, right? We don't need to know every single interface in great detail, right? It's going to generally do this. At a certain point, you might want to test like actual interface designs, but that's going to be very specific. And usually you don't want to do it with personas. You want this to be a little bit broader, right? And so those comments can come out. It's easier to think of it in broad terms versus really high levels of detail. And it'll, because that also allows the person playing the persona to really just use their imagination. Uh, oh, I think that this would be a problem, or this would be really helpful. Um, that's going to maybe give you information that you hadn't thought of before, that's going to just continue to make it better. And provide that rich description, right? Here's the person, here's their background, here's some information you can understand. It's tied to the persona, but you're also presenting it the scenario because you want to continue to make it clear to your person playing your persona who that person is and how it affects them. And once again, and finally, a rich description of the goals, right? Here's the goal. They want to be able to complete this specific thing. Make it clear, make it really obvious what you're going for. And it's finally, and it's credible, right? If it's not credible in the scenario, you're probably going to get not credible results from your person playing your persona. They're going to, if you're presenting this in a fantasy situation, you're going to get fantasy results. And so making it credible, super important. So let's look at some sample ones. Jane is a college student planning a spring break beach trip to Florida. She searches online for the top Florida spring break destinations and pricing to determine where fits her budget. After settling on a destination, she wonders if she can easily compare hotel prices in just one place, right? So we know who Jane is. We're starting to know who Jane is. She's a college student, right? Living on a budget. Yeah, she doesn't just have unlimited money to do whatever she wants. Um, it's a spring break trip to Florida. Incredible. These things happen. Um, and then we know her goal, right? She wants to compare hotel prices in one destination. She wants to look only at one spot to be able to find out all the hotel prices so that she can find that exact now spot for her budget where to stay. And then with this, right, you take the Jane persona and you start thinking about through, hey, well, what would it look like to, what are the needs that she's going to have for those comparing the hotel prices? And so you build all that, you get all that information, then you can make an application that's going to compare hotel prices in a way that Jane would really want, who's part of your target demographic. One other one, this is a little bit broader. I'll explain kind of how it would be used. Dave, 67, retired and with intermediate computer skills, tends to hoard a lot of old junk he's collected over the years because he keeps saying that he's going to fix it up or repurpose it. He realized it's starting to get out of hand, and he's now determined to tackle some of these projects, starting with his old broken wall clock. The problem is he doesn't know where to start. He has so many ideas for each project, but he doesn't know how they will turn out. He also hasn't sat down and planned the steps and materials he will need for each project. He experiments with his projects for hours without much to show for it, and constantly makes trips to the store for new materials as his ideas evolve. However, with no solid plans, his projects often were not finished. Right? Uh, a little bit broader. It's a little bit murkier, kind of where to go with this. There's a few different directions. And so this would be really great for, you think this is going to be a person in your target demographic, right? I'm doing something that's going to help someone make something, right? Um, and so we know who Dave is. We can really see that clear. We can picture Dave in our mind. Um, and then for this, you're really going to use something that's a little bit more vague, this style, for maybe like an initial idea, right? I want to make something that's going to help people who have things that are broken or just some junk, turn it into something new and cool, right? Or fix it up, right? But maybe you don't know that this is going to be an application that's going to be like a makerspace thing that's going to um, just have specific projects that are very detailed that you do it. Maybe this is something for connecting, an application for connecting people with makers in their community to um, have like a mentor type situation to work through things, or hiring someone with some skills to help you with something, right? Maybe you're not exactly sure. So you can present this to you from Dave's perspective. What does he need? How does he continue to keep going? How he wants to reach this spot where he's actually finishing things, making space in his house. Um, and so here's some options that could potentially lead towards solving that problem. All right. So that is our scenarios. Email if you have questions. And so you use the two in conjunction, right? You're going to use the persona with the scenario. All right. So, reminder that Sunday is due the campus accessibility assignment. So remember 10 images of inaccessible items on campus. Um, I've had some questions. So if you're like, oh, this is like, is this too similar? Is it not? Think about how similar it is, right? Um, if you're saying that a computer monitor is not accessible to someone with a visual disability, you can't just use monitors throughout campus, right? Like, oh, I found a monitor in the library, I found a monitor in the sub, right? Same thing. Um, if it was one of them was a touch screen monitor um, display, and one was not, those would be different because they could share the same potential problem with uh, visual disabilities. They could also affect someone with a motor impairment, being able to actually touch the buttons in an easy way. Um, but don't just send me, pictures of 10 monitors throughout campus. So include the picture, the location, what primary disability group is it? So audio, visual, motor, or cognitive, and then what specifically about that item makes it inaccessible to that group. I say create as one PDF. Feel free to create it as a I just want it in one document. It just makes it easier. So just create uh, number one, picture, location, primary disability group, what makes it inaccessible, and then fill in all that information. If you have any questions, let me know. I know this can be difficult. The main part of this is just really trying to make it so that you can start trying to see through someone else's eyes. And then the third assignment is now live, I guess, which is creating personas. It's going to be due, the full thing's going to be due on February 23rd. Please see Canvas for like the full details on this. But what you're going to do, you're going to get a group of 3 to 4 individuals. If you were in the first class today and you did the brainstorming activity, this would be that group that you would be doing it with. If you were in my second section, because of our technical difficulties, this would be the group of 3 to 4 that you were working with, or that you chose to work with. I may need to add some people. I'm waiting to figure out who actually was in attendance in both classes, and then I may have to add some individuals to the different groups, or potentially put them all into one group. You're going to create one persona for each person in the group, so each person should be making their own persona that falls into your target demographic or your users. You're going to agree on one template that you'll use. In Canvas, it's got all the details of what I'm looking for. It's getting a name, picture, life of the day or bio, all those things. So please look at Canvas for details on that. You're going to create 2 scenarios, and you're going to write down what your study is, right? So your study could be, we're studying how using a mobile app for making donations best works for anonymous giving or whatever, right? what is the quote unquote study that you're doing? What's the overarchingness of it? And then your scenarios are going to be like we talked about before, but 2 scenarios. Um, uh, Set up the person, set up what's happening, and set up the goals that are being done with it. Um, Feel free to refer back to the samples here. There are a ton of samples online. And then on in 2 Thursdays from, if you're watching this today, being February 5th, in 2 weeks, we're going to be on the 19th. Your group is going to present your study, the scenarios that you created, the 2 scenarios, and then each one of your personas. It should be, I say 8 to 10 minutes. It might be a little bit shorter. Um, so we'll say maybe like 6 to 10 minutes because it'll depend upon the number of people in your group. Um, each group member is expected to present at least a portion, preferably their persona, but at least each person in the group needs to have a small moment of talking. So please make sure that's doing. And then this is also part of that main assignment on Canvas. So check out for more details there. Any questions on this, please reach out and let me know. I'm going to end this one here. For the first group, I did talk about brainstorming, um, but I'm going to save that brainstorming part for the second class for hopefully next week. Hopefully, once again, I will be in town next week, so we'll go over that at that point. Uh, Sorry again for the technical difficulties. For those of you that weren't able to make it, here's what happened in class today. And otherwise, anything comes up, please let me know. And I will talk to you all soon.